Carlos Alcaraz stood quietly on the practice court, long before the cameras focused on him. There was no trophy beside him, no roaring center court crowd, and no championship celebration. Instead, there was only the sound of tennis balls exploding off his racket, the footsteps of a player determined to return stronger than before, and a short practice video that suddenly spread across social media. Millions of fans watched the clip again and again, asking the same question. Was this Carlos Alcaraz sending a message to the entire tennis world? After everything that happened during Wimbledon, after weeks of questions, criticism, and uncertainty, why was this simple training session becoming one of the biggest tennis stories on the internet? Stay until the end, because the answer is much bigger than just one practice session. The timing of the video made it impossible to ignore. Wimbledon had ended, the spotlight had shifted to new champions, and Alexander Zverev had once again experienced the heartbreak of falling short on one of tennis's biggest stages. While Zverev was left searching for answers after another painful defeat, Alcaraz chose silence instead of interviews. He didn't post a long statement. He didn't respond to every headline. Instead, he walked back onto the practice court, picked up his racket, and let his work speak for him. Recent updates from his training show steady rehabilitation after his wrist injury, with Alcaraz sharing optimistic messages that his recovery is on the right track. El País. But here's the real question. Why would a practice video attract millions of views when there wasn't even a tournament taking place? The answer lies in what people weren't seeing. Every movement, every forehand, every sprint across the baseline was being analyzed by fans desperate for clues about his comeback. Tennis supporters weren't just watching a player practice. They were searching for evidence that one of the sport's biggest stars was preparing to return. If you've followed Carlos Alcaraz from the beginning, you know this isn't the first obstacle he's faced. His career has never been a straight road. Every time people wondered whether he could recover, whether he could improve, or whether he could handle the pressure of becoming the face of a new generation, he answered with his tennis instead of his words. That's what makes this latest chapter so fascinating. The most interesting part wasn't even the speed of his shots. It was his attitude. Cameras captured a player smiling, moving freely, and working with intensity. For many athletes, injuries create fear. They hesitate before every swing. They worry about feeling pain again. But Alcaraz appeared focused on rebuilding confidence one shot at a time. Did you notice something else? The biggest champions rarely announce their comeback with speeches. They announce it with preparation. That's exactly why this video became so powerful. Fans weren't celebrating what Alcaraz had already achieved. They were imagining what he might achieve next. During his recovery, videos of Alcaraz practicing without the heavy protective brace he previously wore have fueled optimism. Other clips showing him experimenting with unusual training methods, including practicing with his left hand during rehabilitation, also attracted enormous attention online. Instagram. Think about that for a moment. How many players would still spend hours on court when they couldn't even compete? How many former champions disappear until they're completely healthy? Alcaraz chose a different path. He allowed fans to witness the process. That matters because modern sports aren't only about winning trophies, they're about building belief. Every practice session reminded supporters that he wasn't finished. Not even close. Meanwhile, the tennis world kept moving. Jannik Sinner continued proving why he's among the best players on the planet. Alexander Zverev continued chasing another major breakthrough. Young stars kept climbing the rankings. Tennis doesn't wait for injured players. And maybe that's exactly what motivated Alcaraz. Imagine watching your biggest rivals lifting trophies while you're sitting at home recovering. Imagine knowing that millions of fans are asking the same question every single day. When will Carlos Alcaraz return? That's pressure very few athletes can truly understand. Yet instead of showing frustration, he showed discipline. Every sprint, every serve, every forehand, every recovery drill, every practice session became another step toward answering those questions. This is where the story becomes emotional. People often remember championships. They remember center court celebrations. They remember Grand Slam trophies. But they rarely remember the lonely practice courts. They don't remember the mornings when nobody is watching. They don't remember the rehabilitation sessions that last longer than matches. They don't remember the hours spent rebuilding confidence. Those moments create champions. And perhaps that's the message Carlos Alcaraz wanted the tennis world to see after Wimbledon. Not fear, not excuses, not disappointment, only work, only belief, only preparation. Now I want to ask you something. There is an old saying in tennis that championships are not won on center court. They are won months earlier, on empty practice courts where nobody is watching. That idea perfectly describes where Carlos Alcaraz finds himself today. While headlines continue discussing Wimbledon, rankings, and the growing rivalry with Jannik Sinner, Alcaraz appears focused on something much more important. He isn't trying to win the news cycle, he's trying to rebuild the version of himself that made the entire tennis world believe a new superstar had arrived. That is why his recent practice sessions have become far more than ordinary training. Every forehand, every serve, every sprint across the baseline is sending one clear message: he is coming back. The reaction from fans has been incredible. Within hours of the practice clips appearing online, thousands of comments flooded social media. Some fans said they had never doubted him. Others admitted they were worried after Wimbledon and feared that injuries might slow down one of the brightest talents the sport has ever seen. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. Seeing Alcaraz smiling, moving freely, and hitting the ball with confidence felt like watching hope return. Sometimes a 30-second practice video says more than a 20-minute interview ever could. Think about how quickly everything can change in professional tennis. One month you are lifting trophies and hearing the crowd chant your name. The next month people begin asking whether someone else has taken your place. That is the reality every champion eventually faces. Roger Federer experienced it, Rafael Nadal experienced it, Novak Djokovic experienced it. Now Carlos Alcaraz is facing his own version of that challenge. The difference between good players and legendary players is not whether they struggle. It is how they respond when the spotlight becomes uncomfortable. That response may already be happening. The latest training footage doesn't show a player carrying disappointment from Wimbledon. It shows someone attacking every drill with energy and purpose. His footwork looks sharp. His intensity remains unmistakable. Most importantly, his body language suggests confidence instead of frustration. Coaches often say that confidence returns before trophies do. If that is true, then Alcaraz may already be taking the first steps toward another remarkable comeback. But there is another side to this story that makes it even more interesting. While Carlos Alcaraz has been rebuilding quietly, the rest of the ATP Tour has become stronger than ever. Jannik Sinner continues raising the standard with incredible consistency. Alexander Zverev remains hungry for the biggest title of his career despite another painful setback. Young stars continue improving every tournament. Every week that passes creates another challenge for Alcaraz. Returning is difficult. Returning to the very top is even harder. That is exactly why this comeback matters. This isn't simply about entering another tournament. It is about proving that setbacks cannot define an athlete's future. Throughout sports history, the greatest champions have always shared one quality. They refused to let one defeat become their identity. Michael Jordan lost before he won. Novak Djokovic experienced heartbreaking Grand Slam defeats before dominating the sport. Rafael Nadal fought through countless injuries that many believed would end his career. Every legend reaches a moment where determination matters more than talent. Perhaps Carlos Alcaraz is standing at that exact moment today. Imagine being only a few weeks removed from one of the biggest tournaments in the world. Imagine reading headlines questioning your future while millions of people debate whether your rivals have already moved ahead. Most athletes would feel pressure. Some would become distracted. Others would answer with emotional interviews. Alcaraz chose something completely different. He answered with another practice session. No dramatic speech, no excuses, no blame, just hard work. That decision may ultimately become the strongest message of all, because actions always last longer than headlines. As the next tournaments approach, expectations will continue growing. Every match Carlos Alcaraz plays will attract enormous attention. Every point will be analyzed. Every victory will restart conversations about his return. Every defeat will bring fresh criticism. That is the price of becoming one of the biggest names in modern tennis. Yet perhaps that pressure is exactly what fuels him. Remember when people questioned whether he could win his first Grand Slam? He answered by winning. When critics wondered whether he could handle being compared with Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, he continued collecting major titles. Time after time, Carlos Alcaraz has shown that doubt often becomes his greatest motivation. Now the tennis world is watching once again. Not because of a trophy, not because of a celebration, but because of a practice court. It is amazing how one simple training video has reminded millions of fans why they fell in love with watching him play. The excitement is back. The belief is returning. And perhaps the biggest chapters of Carlos Alcaraz's career have not even been written yet. So now the question belongs to you. Do you believe Carlos Alcaraz will make another Grand Slam comeback and become world number one again? Or do you think the new generation led by Jannik Sinner has already taken control of men's tennis? Share your opinion in the comments below because I read as many of your comments as possible and the best conversations always happen there. And if you enjoyed this story and want more emotional tennis documentaries, breaking news, player reactions, behind-the-scenes stories, and the biggest updates from the ATP Tour, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next documentary. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.